Laurie Power, Director of Faith Formation and Discipleship at Christ the Redeemer Parish, and welcome to Talking Saints. I'm here today with my co-host, Peter Sanchez, staff writer for the Catholic Star-Herald, and we'll be spending just a few minutes talking about a particular saint and how their example can inspire us. Because as Pope Francis reminds us, to be saints is not a privilege for the few, but a vocation for everyone. How you doing, Pete?
I'm doing well, Laurie. I think I'll be the first one to say to you, Happy New Year.
Yes, that's right.
A new year with a whole new lineup of saints. I'm excited.
We're starting off strong today.
We are. I think
the
saint
we are. That's close to us, both in proximity and close to my heart.
Well, and I think he occupies about 50% of our saint wall here.
In the vault, yes.
There's him and St. Francis de Sales. We have a picture of Saint John Neumann right here. And I think I just let the cat out of that bag. That's what we're talking about.
January 5th is his feast day, so we're going to talk about Saint John Neumann.
Yeah, he was just, we're excited to talk about him. Laurie, what did you learn about Saint John Neumann?
So I had visited his shrine all the time. I go over there. It's beautiful. Wonderful place to visit. It's only probably about 20 minutes from here, maybe less, at 5th and Girard. Right below St. Peter the Apostle Parish is the shrine of St. John Neumann, where his body is actually in a glass tomb there. So many pilgrims go to ask for his intercession. But I didn't know that he had wanted to be a missionary priest and had actually learned lots of languages to come to America. And I thought he was always going to be a Redemptorist, that he was part of that community before he became a priest, but that's not the case. He actually became a Redemptorist after he was ordained. So that was kind of interesting to me. He's obviously beloved in the Redemptorist community. So.
Yeah, in this area, and even though he's not, like you were saying, he was born in Bohemia in the early 19th century, 1811 to be precise. And his father helped the poor, and his mother, believe went to daily mass. So from a young age, he really knew the faith, and he wanted to become a priest. So he studied theology in I think near Prague, seminary studies. But Laurie, can you just explain? There was kind of an unusual occurrence that happened.
Well, I don't know if it was unusual at that time. Right now, it would be unusual.
It would be, okay.
So he was looking forward to being ordained, I think, in 1835. But then the bishop decided there would be no more ordinations because the area was overstocked with priests. Can you imagine? They had too many priests, more priests than they needed. So his local bishop would not ordain him. So he began to write to bishops all over Europe, but the story seemed to be the same everywhere. No one wanted any more priests. And John was sure he was called to the priesthood. So he knew that there was going to be a place for him. So he didn't give up. And he actually learned English by working in a factory with other English-speaking workers. And he decided to write to the bishops in America. And finally, one of the bishops in New York agreed to ordain him.
Yeah. Yeah, he was ordained a priest by the bishop in June of 1836. So when he was 25 years old.
Yeah, and that's actually pretty amazing because at that time, when he left home, he probably knew he wasn't coming back. It wasn't like maybe today where, I'll go be a missionary and then I'll be able to come back to my family and my home. I think he knew going to America, that's where he was going to stay.
Yeah, that's a real commitment to the call.
Yeah.
He really wanted to, his heart was burning to be a priest. And so he started off he helped out helped out individuals in a big area around Niagara Falls. Right. I think Lake Ontario as well around there.
New York there. Yeah.
But it didn't seem like that was a real pleasant experience for him.
Yes, I read his church had no steeple or floor, but that didn't matter to him because he spent most of his time traveling from village to village, climbing mountains to visit the sick. He would go to taverns to teach, and he would even celebrate mass at people's kitchen tables. So he was a true missionary in those areas.
And I think this was with the German-speaking population, right?
I believe so.
So he was there, but it was tough because there was a lot of anti-Catholic sentiment, I believe, too. Maybe we'll not talk about that because that might be a little later on that he encountered that actually.
That in
but
the cities,
there
maybe.
was he had trouble. He taught religion, visited the sick, educated teachers, and that part of education will become important a little bit later on. But So,
and it was kind of like a different scenario when he came to New York. He was only one of 36 priests for 200,000 Catholics. So
wow.
the opposite issue was happening in America at the time.
Yeah. Well, we can pray that hopefully, maybe pray to Saint John Neumann that
Ask for more vocations.
yes.
Yeah.
But he actually, I believe, Laurie, that he ended up leaving he didn't want to be I guess a diocesan priest. Is that what he was at the time?
I think he met Redemptorists
When
he was when he was a diocesan priest, and they were really encouraging. They were saying, it's not good to be alone. You need community. And he ultimately agreed with the priests he met, and decided to join the Redemptorists. So, and they were actually a congregation founded to, help the poor and those who were most abandoned. So that appealed to him as well.
Yeah, and he traveled here. He went, I think, first to Baltimore, and then to Pittsburgh.
That's right.
And then eventually became the. He filled the role. He was vice provincial superior of the Redemptorists from 1846 to 1849, and then became a parish priest in Baltimore. And then at the age of 41 in 1852, this is when Philadelphia comes into play.
Yes.
Because he was named bishop. And 41, I mean...
That's so young. And he was actually consecrated on his birthday, his 41st birthday. Yeah,
that's a happy birthday gift. If I've ever...
That's true.
That's great. This goes to show you his character and his strength. Yeah. That from a young age... I don't know. Maybe I don't know if others were being ordained that young, but
maybe in America, since there seem to be not as many priests. Probably not so much in Europe, I would imagine. But yes. Yeah. But obviously, if they made him a superior in the Redemptorists, only 4 years after he became a Redemptorist, that does show that they recognize his gifts. Definitely.
Yeah. And then he, when he was bishop in Philadelphia, one of the big deals was his emphasis on education, and he actually founded the new diocesan school system.
Right. I mean, he founded Catholic so many schools. It was as if he had created an actual Catholic school system. Yes.
I think it went from 2 to 100.
I had read that. Yeah, 2 to 100 under his leadership. So that's incredible. Awesome. Yeah. And apparently, he always had a heart for catechizing children. At his ordination in New York, I had read that he had 30 children make after his ordination at his first mass. He had 30 children make their first communion at his first mass. So that's unusual, and that's quite beautiful. Wow. So he definitely had a love for young people and wanting to educate them in the faith.
And he also founded a new religious institute, the Third Order of St. Francis of Glenriddle. And then a little bit about the School Sisters of Notre Dame, right? Yeah. He was there. He wasn't their founder, but he helped found their home in America.
I think they referred to him as their father in America. Yeah. So he was good to them.
Yeah. So he was only bishop though for a short time, but in that short time he built 89 churches, and then several hospitals, orphanages, and also the schools.
Yeah. And he would also continue traveling through, it was a very large area. I think his diocese or his archdiocese included us at that time. So we were not established. So he would have even taken parts of New Jersey. So that's pretty cool.
So maybe he did come to South Jersey at some point.
Maybe. And apparently he also kept that. He would still visit his people and would still travel, and he seemed to have a sense of humor. On one of his visits to a rural parish, apparently the parish priest picked him up in a manure wagon. And as he got on to, sat in the wagon, he joked, have you ever seen such an entourage for a bishop? So, so he was apparently pretty down to earth. And I think you had mentioned he wasn't necessarily well received by everyone because he just had a very simple manner about him, and was not, especially among maybe the elite of Philadelphia, was not exactly what they were looking for in a bishop, but very humble man.
Yeah, I think these individuals too, this group was burning convents and schools. Allegedly, he even wanted to go to a different diocese, but they told him to stay. And I think maybe this was around the time when he started the Catholic schools. And in 8 years, very prolific. But, You did mention too, Laurie, that he was kind of man of the people with different languages. So
so he originally learned English to come to America, but along the way, I think he had learned up to 8 different languages. And then when the influx of Irish immigrants started, he even learned Gaelic so that he could hear confessions of the people. And one Irish woman commented, "Oh, isn't it grand that we have an Irish bishop?"
Yeah.
So apparently he must have spoke fairly well if she thought he was Irish himself.
So he really had the smell of the sheep, as I think Pope Francis and I think our own Bishop Sullivan has implored that for priests to smell like their flock, to really get into the communities, know the communities, interact with them, and relate to them. And he did that. I mean,
And I think he continued to live. I mean, he would have taken a vow of poverty as a Redemptorist. And apparently he was visiting, after he was a bishop, he was just visiting a home, and he had gotten soaked in the rain. And when he came in, they said, "Oh, why don't you change your shoes?" And he remarked to the host, "Well, the only way I could change my shoes is by putting the left one on the right foot and the right one on the left foot, because this is the only pair I own." So he was still living pretty simply, even as a bishop.
So he had a wit about him,
apparently,
which is good.
That seems to come through.
And I think that too is that shows his joy in the Lord.
Yeah,
I think in that. I mean, he, with the anti-Catholic sentiment and with tough living conditions in some ways, he had that humility and that spirit to keep going.
And he was tireless, it seems, having founded all those parishes and all the schools as well. That's incredible. There was also I had read one of the sisters that worked with him, when he would go into the schools, the children would comment, "Oh, Father John, it's like he can see right into my heart or see right into my soul." So I think they really appreciated how genuine he was, and he was a good spiritual father for the children too. Something else he is known for, which is very significant, is the 40 hours devotion. So the 40 hours of Eucharistic adoration, which he really spread around Philadelphia when he was bishop and really promoted. So that's huge to encourage people to spend time in the presence of the Blessed Sacrament and spend time in prayer. So we do a 40 hours at our parish, and I think we can thank Saint John Neumann for that.
Yeah. Yeah, he unfortunately he passed away. He was on. We're not sure where in Philadelphia, but it was on Philadelphia Street. He was among the people. He had died of a heart attack at the very young age of 41 years old.
48.
48. Sorry, 41. He was ordained. 48. Right. 7 years later.
7 years as a bishop.
Thank you, Laurie.
Sure.
I can't read my notes here, but no. 48 years old, but he. This was 1860, and then a little more than 100 years later, he was beatified, the first American bishop to be beatified, right? And then he was canonized in 1977, and Pope Paul VI summarized Saint John Neumann by saying that, quote, "He was close to the sick, he loved to be with the poor, he was a friend of sinners, and now he is the glory of all immigrants."
Beautiful. And now I believe he's invoked as patron of sick children and of immigrants. And I think some of the miracles were even local and were healing of children, if I remember correctly. So that would make sense with his love of young people.
I think maybe too he's a patron saint of educators and teachers. I think I read that too, just with the school system, and it's just so influential in so many regards, and we have to thank him for taking that leap of faith, as it were, from Germany,
coming to America.
Because that must have been such a change, because he went to seminary intending to stay in Germany, and then was like, "No, we don't have a spot for you." Well, where am I going to go? And to go to the United States to help out the German-speaking immigrants, and then to learn all those languages. And it takes a courageous heart.
He was apparently very diligent, too. If I remember correctly, reading one of his journals, like he would clearly map out what sort of spiritual growth he was trying to attain. So, like this month I'm going to work on the virtue of patience, and this is when I'm going to pray, and this is the good works I'm going to do. So he was very organized in his desire to attain sanctity. Like he really said, okay, if I want to be a saint, I have to work at it. I have to put myself into it and then ask God for the grace to
I think that's I think that's a great note to end on just as we enter 2022. Maybe we can make our own little saintly goals. Is that the term for it? I mean, just
spiritual goals. Yeah.
And try
We're just committing to, living the spiritual life with a certain tenacity like he did.
I like that. I like that, Lord.
We do have a prayer. Okay. Yeah. Let's ask for his intercession. O Jesus, who on earth commanded and practiced a hidden life, grant that in these our days of pride and outward display, the example of your servant, John Neumann, may lead us to follow your humble ways. Grant, O Lord, that like your holy bishop, we may do all our work with the pure intention of pleasing you, and let not our deeds be done to win the favor of others, but to give glory to our Father in heaven. We thank you that our fellow citizen and devoted missionary bishop is recognized among the saints of your church in heaven, and we beseech you, O Lord, to glorify him on earth by granting the favors we ask through his intercession. Amen. Saint John Neumann,
pray for us.